I mean, at best, I'm expressing it as a hypothesis. Okay, and there's certain powerful arguments for it, but and in terms of where it fits into the whole thing, it gives a kind of cosmic underpinning to utilitarianism, I would say. Uh, in other words, it gets away from the idea that utilitarianism applies only to human beings. I mean, Bentham already had it as applying to animals, also, of course. But in a certain sense, it, it gives the whole universe as its scope. But
Well,
that's just a kind of side comment.
why not just put it on more solid ground for non-humans then to start with, non-human animals, that is.
Well, I mean that's something that Bentham already did. He's one of the pioneers in animal rights, if you want to call. Well, animal rights is the bad name for him. Bentham didn't think of rights as existing.
But I think it's hardly settled completely how to deal with animals in terms of calculating utility.
Yeah,
Like,
that's right. I mean,
we
in other
don't.
words, they're included in the group, and I mean the basic idea of utilitarianism. I hate that word, by the way.
Yeah, I know.
As I think I've mentioned to you, I like to call it the greatest happiness principle. Uh, in principle, it's universal. I mean, in practice, each person has a kind of limited range of entities, including himself, who he cares for, and so you cannot expect someone to you know do something real stupid, although some people will. But I mean, as time goes by, you get more and more organization, and you get cooperation on wider and wider levels. I mean, that's seems to be the trend in human history. I think it's the trend in evolutionary terms and so forth. So the same thing applies to the universe as a whole in the very, very long run. Okay, so let me talk about the more significant things. First of all, I mean, is there any overall conception? You talk about the various aspects of human behavior in the human mind. You've got attention, memory, motivation, all kinds of things like that. Is there any kind of unified principle that's involved here? And I think the stress is on um, orienting yourself to the future. I mean, it has to be that that's the way evolution works. That after all, the future is the thing we're going into, and it's the only part that you can address,
Mm-hmm.
so that you know you of course have explicit planning about the future, but most of our efforts are not directly toward the future, but they involve things like learning more about the world in general. Taking stock of the past tells you something about the future, and so forth and so on. And Your motivations tend to develop in a way which tends to lead, from your point of view, to greater prosperity to yourself, your circle of friends, your neighbors, etc., etc.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, so what you have is a kind of entity that sociologists refer to as social distance. In other words, you are closest to yourself. You're always there, um, and there are things you have to do for yourself, like brushing your own teeth. And then you have your family and close friends, your neighbors, and so forth, your ethnic group, your own culture. And the wider out you go, the less consideration you give, and the less consideration you can give, because there's only a certain amount of influence you could have on people who are distant. And as a result, you don't think about them that much, and you don't care about them that much, actually, because caring about something you can't do anything about is useless in terms of your time and effort and resources. So you can say that over time, people's level of concern tends to broaden. Now, these are the kinds of things that Steven Pinker talks about, or um, um,
Broaden because they've got more power and more information.
right, right. You get more information. You find um, other groups that you can cooperate with. And I mean, maybe even groups that you were antagonistic with toward some time or other. But these things take time, and it's hard to plan explicitly for them. Okay, so that's one little thing.